This 1859 plantation photo looks calm until you notice what is hidden in the servant's hand. Dr. Sarah Mitchell stood in the cool archive room of the Virginia Historical Society. Her eyes were fixed on a daguerreotype that had come in an unmarked box 3 days before. The image showed the Ashford family from Richmond, Virginia. They posed on the steps of their plantation home in 1859. Jonathan Ashford sat in the center, his wife next to him, and their 3 children stood like perfect dolls. Behind them stood 5 enslaved servants, dressed in their best house clothes. Hardly noticeable is the picture. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, comment your thoughts, and subscribe. Sarah used her magnifying glass and looked closely as soft afternoon light came through the high windows. At first, it seemed like a usual antebellum portrait. Rich planters showed off their wealth and high position, but one servant's pose had caught her eye right away. The woman stood a little apart from the others. Her face was turned in an odd way. Sarah moved closer. Her breath stopped for a moment. In the servant's right hand, half hidden by the folds of her dark dress, was something that did not belong there. A small piece of paper, folded tight and held with care. Sarah's heart beat faster. In hundreds of plantation photos she had studied, she had never seen an enslaved person holding anything in a formal picture. Everything was planned and controlled to show a perfect image of the Old South. She took her digital camera and started taking clear photos of the daguerreotype, especially the servant's hand. The paper was real. It could not be a shadow or a flaw in the old process. "This changes everything," Sarah said quietly to the empty room. The next morning, Sarah looked up the Ashford family. Records showed Jonathan Ashford owned a tobacco plantation called Riverside Manor. He had 47 enslaved workers in 1859. He was a well-known man in Richmond. He served on the city council and went to St. John's Episcopal Church. The daguerreotype was made by Marcus Webb, a traveling photographer who took pictures of rich families in Virginia from 1855 to 1861. His records at the Library of Virginia confirm the date, August 14th, 1859. Sarah looked at more of Webb's photos. None showed servants holding objects. In normal pictures, enslaved people were placed in the back as signs of wealth, not as people with their own will. She went back to the photo and used special software to make it clearer. The paper in the woman's hand looked sharper. It was folded many times, small enough to hide, but big enough for writing. Sarah called her friend, Dr. Marcus Reynolds, an expert on resistance by enslaved people. He came to the archive in less than an hour. His old face lit up when he saw the photo. "That is on purpose," Marcus said, fixing his glasses. "She holds the paper at just the right angle for the camera, but not easy to see at the time." "Who was she?" Sarah asked. Marcus opened Ashford plantation records on his laptop. The 1860 slave list showed 7 women in the main house, but no names, only ages and basic notes. They looked at the woman in the photo. She seemed about 35 tall, with strong face and smart eyes that looked straight ahead through time. The next day, Sarah drove to Richmond. The hot August weather felt like the same month 166 years ago. Riverside Manor was gone now. A road junction stood where the fields once were. But the Museum of the Confederacy in Richmond had many Ashford family papers. An old archivist named Dorothy took Sarah to a small research room. "The Ashford papers are not asked for often," Dorothy said, pointing to 3 boxes. "Mostly business letters and legal papers." Sarah went through them carefully. Account books, orders for supplies, and letters. Jonathan's tidy writing listed crop amounts, prices, and costs. Enslaved people were counted like farm animals, with values and lists. Then she found a strange letter from September 1859, 1 month after the photo. Jonathan wrote to his brother in Charleston, "We have had some problems. A few house servants are behaving oddly. I have added more watch and limited their movement. Any bad ideas they have must be stopped before they grow." Sarah took a picture of the letter. Her thoughts raced. What happened in that short time? What did the photo catch that Jonathan saw only later? She kept looking and found a sale document from October 1859. Jonathan sold 3 enslaved women to someone in New Orleans. This was a usual way to get rid of troublemakers. The sale was quick, and the price was a bit low. Dorothy came back with tea. "Find anything good?" "Maybe," Sarah answered carefully. "Are there any Ashford family members still in Richmond?" "There is Elizabeth Ashford Monroe." "There is Elizabeth Ashford Monroe. She is in her 80s and lives in the Fan district. Her family gave these papers in 1972. Elizabeth Ashford Monroe lived in a slim old townhouse painted light yellow. She let Sarah into a room full of old furniture and faded photos. At 83, she moved slowly but spoke clearly. "I am not proud of my family's past," Elizabeth said, sitting in a soft chair. "But I think we should face the truth." Sarah showed her the 1859 daguerreotype on her tablet. Elizabeth looked at it with her glasses, thinking quietly. "I have never seen this picture," Elizabeth said softly. "My grandfather, Jonathan's grandson, destroyed most photos from the plantation days. He said the past should stay hidden." "Why?" Elizabeth put the tablet down. "There were family stories, quiet talk about something in 1859 that scared Jonathan a lot. My grandmother told me once when I was little. She said the servants were planning something bad, and Jonathan found out just in time." "What kind of plan?" "She did not say exactly, but she spoke of a woman named Clara who worked in the house. Clara taught herself to read by taking books. Jonathan found out and sold her south with 2 others." Sarah's heart beat hard. "Clara, do you know more about her?" Elizabeth got up slowly and went to an old desk. She took out a small leather book. "This was my great-great-great-grandmother, Margaret's Jonathan's wife. She wrote short notes every day. I read it only once. It upset me." She opened it to August 1859. "Jay had the family portrait done today. The photographer worked fast, but I saw Clara stand oddly, holding herself tight. Jay said it was nothing." Another note, September 12, 1859. "Jay sold Clara, Ruth, and Diane. He says abolitionist ideas got to them, and they were a danger to us. I feel better but still worried. Clara always did her work well." Clara always did her work well. Sarah called the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center in Cincinnati. She spoke to Dr. James Washington, who knew a lot about resistance in the Upper South. She sent him the clear photo of the paper in Clara's hand. James called back fast, his voice excited. "Sarah, this is amazing. Do you know what this could be?" "Tell me." In 1859, Virginia was ready to explode. John Brown's raid at Harper's Ferry came in October, just 2 months after this photo, but plans for that and other actions started months earlier. Underground Railroad people were active in Richmond, helping escapes and sharing news. You think Clara was part of it? Look at the dates. Photo in August, trouble noticed in September, sales in October, then Brown's raid. If Clara was linked to A.N. at work and Jonathan found proof, he would move fast. Sarah saw it come together, the paper in her hand. Maybe a message, a map, names of contacts. Enslaved people found clever ways to hide and send information. Putting it in a photo no one would study closely was smart. "That's clever," James said. Richmond had free black people and some white helpers who moved escapees. Messages often went through house servants, who could move more freely than field workers. How do I learn what was on the paper? You may not find it exactly, but you can follow Clara after the sale. New Orleans slave records sometimes exist, and abolitionist papers might have clues. Where do I begin? Start at the Amistad Research Center in New Orleans. They hold many records of people sold in Louisiana. Also try the Friends Historical Library in Philadelphia. Quakers wrote down a lot about Underground Railroad work. Sarah flew to New Orleans on a wet September day. The Amistad Research Center was in a new building on Tulane University grounds. It kept stories of people bought and sold in America's biggest slave market. Dr. Patricia Green, the director, met Sarah in her office. Fall 1859 was very busy in New Orleans, Patricia said. After Brown's raid, owners in the Upper South got scared of unreliable servants. Many were sold south to punish or prevent trouble. She opened digital files. Sales were noted by notaries. You said October 1859. Yes. 3 women from Richmond, Clara, Ruth, and Diane. Sold by Jonathan Ashford. Patricia typed fast. Here, October 28, 1859. 3 women, ages 34, 28, and 41, sold to Jacques Beaumont, a sugar planter in St. James Parish. Are there more details, like notes or descriptions? Patricia looked further. Yes, 1 woman, age 34, had odd burn scars on her hands. That sometimes meant punishment for touching forbidden things like books or papers. Could be see Clara. More, Patricia said quietly. 6 months later, April 1860, Jacques Beaumont told the St. James sheriff 1 woman he bought from Virginia had run away. The report called her smart, able to read, and risky. Did they catch her? No follow-up. Either she stayed free, or he did not want to say more. By then, owners hated to announce escapes. It looked weak, and gave ideas to others. From New Orleans, Sarah went to Philadelphia. The Friends Historical Library kept Quaker records from the 1600s. Thomas Miller, the Underground Railroad expert, waited for her. I started looking when you called, Thomas said, taking her to a quiet room. Spring 1860 was important. After Brown's death in December 1859, people worked harder to help escapes. He laid out letters, journals, and secret lists from Quaker helpers. There were main paths from Louisiana north. The best went through Texas, then Missouri to Iowa, and Illinois. Thomas showed a May 1860 note from conductor Rebecca Walsh. Received 3 travelers from the Gulf area, 2 men and 1 woman. The woman showed hard work marks, but had strong learning and will. She knew Virginia networks and talked of unfinished work. Could that be Clara? It could be. Rebecca ran a station in southeast Iowa then. She used secret words. Travelers meant people seeking freedom. Travelers meant people seeking freedom. Gulf area meant Louisiana or nearby. Thomas showed another paper, a letter from Rebecca to a Philadelphia friend. The woman with Virginia ties has helped a lot. She knows contacts in Richmond and details of big houses. She wants to go back to help more, but knows the risk. Did she go back? No clear proof yet, but later notes mention a woman helping as a conductor near Richmond in late 1860 and early 1861. Someone who knew rich homes well and could move quietly. He showed one last note from December 1860. See report safe travel of 4 souls from Ashford. Links. Message sent. Back in Virginia, Sarah met Marcus Reynolds at the University of Richmond lab. They got approval to use special imaging on the original daguerreotype to see more about the paper. Technician Lisa placed it under a multispectral camera. This tool helps study old writings, Lisa said. It finds hidden ink, shows texture, and brings out details you cannot see normally. The photo became very sharp. Every cloth fold, shadow and tone. There, Marcus said, pointing. Her hand. Lisa zoomed in. The paper had marks on it. Small lines that looked like writing. Can you make that part clearer? Sarah asked. Lisa changed settings and added contrast. Slowly, shapes appeared. Not full letters, but a rough map with points marked and symbols below. Marcus checked his phone against known examples. These signs match codes from Underground Railroad groups. This star shape usually means a safe house or contact. She was holding a map, Sarah said softly, right in a family portrait. Clara recorded the network spots. Lisa cleared another part. Initials appeared. JWMCRL, maybe the people Clara worked with. This proves organized resistance, Marcus said, his voice full of feeling. Clara did not just run. She wrote down helpers for others and hid it where no one would look. Sarah spent 2 weeks following those initials in Richmond church books, free black lists, and abolitionist papers. Names came up. James Washington, a free black carpenter. Mary Connor, a white Quaker who sewed. Robert Lewis, an Irishman who ran a boarding house by the river. Records showed they helped the Underground Railroad, but nothing proved it fully until Clara's map linked them. The biggest find came at the National Archives, a March 1861 report from a Confederate provost marshal just before the war started. News about escaped slave, Clara, last sold from Ashford place in Richmond. She came back to Virginia and is thought to help runaways. Searches failed. She is very smart and has strong connections. Jonathan Ashford filed it himself. He had a security job as war came near. His neat writing showed anger. This woman keeps escaping capture and breaks the right order. Her work threatens calm. One last paper from April 1865, Union records after Richmond fell. A camp officer wrote he spoke to a woman named Clara, about 40, who said she worked as a conductor in Richmond through the war. She gave good information on Confederate supplies and helpers in the city. He suggested she be honored. Clara lived through it all. She came back to the place that held her and spent 5 years helping others escape while the Confederates hunted her. Sarah stood in the Virginia Historical Society gallery. The 1859 daguerreotype now hung with a new label. Elizabeth Ashford Monroe stood with her, along with Marcus and a few descendants research had found linked to Clara. One was an old man, Robert Jackson. His great-great-grandmother escaped Richmond in 1861 with help from an unknown woman conductor. Family stories kept the tale, but not the name. Clara, Robert said quietly, looking at the photo. After all this time, we know who helped my ancestor. The label said, this 1859 plantation portrait showed more than people planned. The woman on the right, now known as Clara, holds a folded paper with a map of Underground Railroad contacts in Richmond. Sold to Louisiana for suspected resistance, Clara escaped, returned to Virginia, and worked as a conductor during the Civil War, helping many reach freedom. Putting the map in this photo was a brave act of courage, hiding proof of freedom work in plain view. Sarah worked with history groups and descendants to keep Clara's story safe forever. The map signs were fig, lured out and matched to other records, showing a bigger network than known before. Elizabeth came to Sarah quietly. Thank you for finding this. My family did great wrong, but knowing Clara fought back, and one helps me accept it. Sarah looked at the photo again. Clara's eyes seemed to meet hers across 166 years, full of strength and smart thought. In her hand, hidden unless you knew to look, was proof that enslaved people were never just victims. They resisted, recorded their own paths to freedom, and fought with amazing bravery and cleverness. The photo, once a sign of old power, became something new, proof of Clara's fight, kept in the last place her owners would check. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, comment your thoughts, and subscribe.